All right, welcome to another edition of Catching Up with the Cats. I'm Justin Parker with Davidson Sports Information, and joining me today is recent Davidson graduate KiShawn Pritchett of the men's basketball team. KiShawn, what's up, man?
Oh, thanks for having me.
First off, how does that sound? Davidson graduate.
I still can't believe it. It's been a long journey, but just to be able to say that I have the Davidson degree and walk around with that piece of paper is a big deal. So I can't be grateful enough for all the people who helped make it happen.
Now, you were born on the West Coast, but you came to North Carolina in seventh grade, played locally at Lake Norman High School for the great Brandon Jolly, who is one of your best supporters. He's at every game he can possibly be at. But you chose to stay close to home for college and play basketball for Bob McKillop here at Davidson. Obviously, you had some injuries that even date back to your high school days. But how would you kind of summarize maybe the Davidson experience for you? I mean, do you feel like it overall was what you were hoping for?
I think so. To answer your last question, it wasn't what I was hoping for, but I don't think things kind of go the way you expect them to go all the time, and that's okay. And I think that's what was so valuable about the Davidson experience. Like, not only am I, like we talked about, able to walk around with this piece of paper that has substantial just power when thinking.
Pardon me, error.
Sorry about that.
Sorry.
I have like a self-reader that reads for me, and so it announces all of the notifications. So if I have any more interruptions, I'm sorry about that.
I need to get one of those.
But I think it was there's so many ups and downs a part of the experience, and I think that's why I value the Davidson experience so much, because throughout everything, I just had such a strong supporting cast, and there were so many highs and so many lows just thinking about the injuries that I went through.
Right.
And so that's kind of why the experience didn't go the way I expected it to go. But I just I'm so grateful for all the relationships that I've gained and the people that I've gotten to know, and I think that's what Davidson has been for me, and that's what I'm going to cherish and hold on to even after basketball, right? Even after I graduate, even after the basketball's over.
Well, I think that's what has made people pull for you, is that you're such a great guy, and you and I go way back. I saw you as a high school player, and I've known Jolly for a long time at Lake Norman, and so I think everybody was pulling for you, and just the way I've seen you handle things has been impressive. You cheered on your teammates, and you've been supportive, and you're just a good guy. So everybody's pulling for you on that. So that's out there. I wanted to say that to you. But one thing that I always have thought about you as well, and like I said, we go way back, and I've written about this in my past life as a high school sports writer, is your off the court endeavors. You love people. You love kids. I remember writing a story about you. Someone, it didn't come from you. Someone on the receiving end of some of your generosity. You had been a role model for their kid. They reached out to me at the newspaper and said, like, you just need to, I think somebody needs to know that this high school star athlete actually, is doing some stuff off the court. So along those lines, you're venturing out into multiple different ways here. Why don't we start with the nonprofit first? Tell us a little bit about that. I believe it's kind of centered around literacy, especially like in the Iredell County area.
Yeah. So I'm a sociology major, or I was a sociology major. And so upper mobility is something that we talked about all the time within classes. And that's just the ability for someone from a lower income family to rise up and become in the middle class or up to even upper class. And so it starts off as like when they're children, and it's just a projection that they do based on each city. And so Charlotte had, in 2014, there was a report from Harvard that said Charlotte had some of the worst, or it was like the worst of all, like the biggest 50 metropolitan areas in the country had the lowest upper mobility. And so a lot of people went to Charlotte and northern or south Charlotte to help, but I felt like there are a lot of needed resources in the Northern Charlotte region or the Northern Charlotte area, which kind of is where Davidson is, but we're also right on the line near Iredale, and that's where I went to school and where I went to middle school and high school. And so I started doing research on local schools in Iredale that also needed the help and the aid that schools in Charlotte needed. And I found NB Mills Elementary School, which is the lowest performing elementary school in Iredale Statesville Schools District. And so at first it started my senior year where I tried to get Davidson students to the school just to tutor and just be there and shift the paradigm of these students, because it's a school with 84% of the school is minority, and 90% of these students are on free and reduced lunch, a key indicator that it's a high impoverished school.
Right.
And so just trying to get resources was really where it started. And then I did an independent study my spring of my senior year, and I did training with Augustine Literacy Project to become a certified tutor. So I started tutoring and I started realizing the importance of literacy. And so that's where I kind of wanted to hone in and focus my program around. And after realizing the importance of literacy, I just wanted to deal with first grade literacy and understanding the importance of the building blocks, because reading is something that happens at home and students aren't like born reading. And it's something that if you aren't practicing and if you don't have exposure and if you don't have text and if your parents aren't reading to you, then you won't grasp it as easily. And so that's something that I wanted to be able to fill in for these students in Statesville. And because reading is also something that this school struggles with, I wanted to be able to pinpoint a specific block. And so my program's going to deal with rising first graders and deal with phonological awareness. And so that I can have the building blocks so that these students can be better readers in fourth grade, because there's research that says if you can't read at a proficient level by fourth grade, then you're more likely to be on welfare. You're going to make $10,000 less. You're more likely to be in prison. You're more likely to go to juvenile detention centers. And just thinking about how much reading is out of the control of the students, and how these students can't really, they don't have a say in how they're going to access these texts. And so I wanted to be able to like put in a kind of a filler and have a program that helped students in the summer, and so that it wasn't during the school year, but it also combated the summer slide, which is also a big problem. And so I wanted to be able to do all of that while also empowering and having a camp where I give tools and I wanted to give school supplies and backpacks, and books are important. And I want to have teacher liaisons, and obviously all of this is a pipe dream. And so for me, I wanted to get experience before I did that. And so that's what I'm kind of doing now.
No, it's great. And I mean, just hearing you talk about it, I can see your passion for it. And I know, I mean, what those kids need, they need someone to stand in for them and someone to help them. And um, man, you're such a kind person. You're perfect for that. So I know you're going to thrive at that, and you're going to make a difference in people's lives. And it sounds so basic, just being able to read, but you know, if you don't, I love the way you put it, building block. If you don't have that building block, you can't build on top of it, right? So, man, that's impressive, and that would be impressive enough if that was all you were doing. But I know you're also headed to Rwanda in October through Shooting Touch as a director of basketball operations. A pretty unique opportunity, it sounds like. So tell us a little bit about that as well.
Yeah. So it still hasn't really hit me yet. I accepted it last week, but Shooting Touch is an organization, a nonprofit organization based in Rwanda, and they have 6 locations, 7 courts, serving over 1,300 youth between the ages of 7 and 21, and then they also serve over 750 women over the age of 21, right? And so it's basketball based, where they use basketball um, as a way to get the community together. But what they also do, and what's really important and cool about what they do, is they're doing like healthcare, and they're giving vaccinations to the community. They're doing STD scanning, but there's also a key educational part of it, and so it's combating gender inequality, and focusing on gender-based violence, and educating on understanding healthy relationships and knowing what they look like emotionally, mentally, physically, sexually, understanding what safe sex is, learning to say no. So there's so much that's going to take place, and it's coaching basketball, but also educating the youth and helping educate. Honestly, this opportunity is so much bigger than me, and I'm the more I think about it, I'm just at loss for words, because it's such a cool thing, and it's such an incredible opportunity, and I just can't believe that I'm actually going to take part of this, and so it's amazing.
Well, and I think what you're doing is awesome, and it's not just that; it's a confirmation, an affirmation of the kind of guy you are, and the kind of student athlete that Bob McKillop wants in his program. And being around the program, and when guys like you graduate, it's kind of like, really going to miss seeing KiShawn, but this is just a launch point for you. Davidson basketball is kind of your springboard onto the changing lives, outside of campus. And I think, man, you're doing that already. And the ink's not even dry on your diploma yet, man.
I appreciate it. It's so funny because I've always, like, my goal was to play in the NBA, and for the longest I wanted to play in the NBA, obviously because I love basketball, but also just because I realized what that position would have given me access to.
Mhm.
And basketball has always just been a platform, right? And for me, I've always wanted to use this platform to help people, and get people out of the position that they're in. And for me, I feel like I wouldn't be in the position if it wasn't for outside resources and help, and outside interventions, and coaches, right? Teachers and people taking time. And so it's important to have those people to help elevate people and get people to where I am, and get students from low income families, and give Black and brown students who don't have access, first generation students, to be in the position that I'm in. And so it's so important for me, and that's something that I think I'm going to dedicate my life to.
Good stuff, KiShawn, man. I really appreciate catching up with you. It's great. Like I said, we go way back, and it's been a treat for me to kind of come on the inside of the program here the last couple of years, and kind of be on the same team as you for the first time. And even though I've always been kind of pulling for you, you know that. But he's KiShawn Pritchett. I'm Justin Parker, and this has been Catching Up with the Cats.
Thank you.